Well, I don't know how that's going to work. We're down in the Hemlocks. We're looking at blind options. That does not look too good. She is trying to stand it back up. Do you think it's salvageable?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it'll be salvageable. We're going to take a look at it. I did something I don't normally do, which is I left that blind in the woods ever since the spring gobbler season. It has been out here since May. So that blind's been out here for a long time. I don't think there's any snow, so I don't think snow broke it or anything like that. But we've had such bad weather with winds and rain and everything else that probably what happened is the roof stakes there, the roof, rafters or whatever you want to call them, they probably got off to the side and the blind collapsed around it. So we can probably pull that right back into compliance. How's that? Hopefully that'll work. Hopefully we'll salvage it. Man, is it a rainforest down here. This, ladies and gentlemen, friends of Bunjie, is the Hemlocks. I shot my first crossbow buck ever in 2010 in a tree stand that was in that tree right over there. That big hemlock. I was sitting in that, and that buck came running across here. The video's on YouTube. You guys are, and I wrote about it in my book, The Death by Bunjie Crossbow Story, how that really changed my view of hunting so much. And it was really my reintroduction to hunting after taking decades off, or a decade off. But that buck came across here chasing a doe and made his way through here, stopped at 10, 12, 15 yards, whatever it was, 20 yards, took a shot, and then he ran across here, and I watched him struggle and die right over there, 40 yards away. Couldn't beat it. It was like picture perfect. So it hasn't changed much. This area hasn't since that time, but it is a pretty good spot for me to hunt later in the season when the deer's patterns turn into the rut, right? And the reason I say that is this is a more secluded spot. This is not near any roads, houses, anything like that. You can hear the compressor station droning away, an oil and gas compressor station. That does affect the way you hunt here, but it's not so loud as to bother the deer, I don't believe. And I do see deer here. The problem for this area, there's a trail, I'm standing on it. This time of year, I don't feel like if I'm talking, if we're working on a blind, setting up blinds, I'm doing this in mid-July. So I don't feel like we're spoiling the area because the deer patterns are going to change totally by the time I come down here to hunt. By late October, early November, the deer are on a whole different pattern. And the deer, the bucks that might be around here right now won't even be here once that part of the season rolls around, I believe. There's a trail that runs out of the swamp here, comes across behind me, runs parallel to the creek pretty much onto the neighbor's property. And deer either coming from the neighbor's property going back over to the swamp will traverse this trail. And deer that are going from the swamp to the neighbor's property will come by this trail. What I like to do on a location like that, it's not enough for me necessarily to have deer, to know that the deer are coming through here. A good trail is a great place to start, but you need an attraction. You need a reason to believe that the deer will come here as opposed to using a different trail, because they can go anywhere. They got trails all over the place. The other thing you need is to be 20 yards, 30 yards, what have you, from that trail. You can't be, it's no good if they're following a trail and you don't know how far away they are, or they're not close enough. But this mock scrape is priceless to me. This is the way to do it. When you find a nice trail, you put in a nice mock scrape or an attraction like this. If you can bait in areas where you can bait, you throw a corn pile down there, right? The deer will stop to investigate that corn pile before moving on. They might even come from a little bit of a distance to investigate that corn pile. That's pretty cool. But here with this is, it should look out of place to you. It should, because this is a beech limb, several beech limbs, beech tree limbs that I took from beech trees right over there. See those green beech trees, all those young trees? I just cut them off, stuck them right in this hemlock. So you got a hemlock tree, right? Nice tall hemlock. It'd be a good saw log in 20 years. But that is screwed in there. Those branches are screwed in there, and there is a scrape under it. And they do the work for you, man. They come in here and they just start mauling the ground, beating it all up. This is the best one I've ever put in. I remember I have pictures of this and video of this where this thing's 6 feet across. Like, we don't get deer this big further up toward the house or anything like that. The big bucks stay down here They stay near that swamp and all the seclusion. The swamp is right there on the other side of these trees. That light area you see is a swampy area. Beaver ponds out in there and all this other stuff. Deer will stay in that, come through here. And during the rut, they'll come through here during the day. And I will point out one further thing. That's the time of year, late October, early November, when you want to get up early and come out here and hunt, because they're here like at 7:30, right? So you got to be in a blind at 5 o'clock. So you got to be in here way before the sun comes up to get the early bucks. They might come through here in the evening too, but the pictures suggest that, and the deer that I have shot here were in the morning. I shot another buck in the morning here. My 2016 buck I shot from that same tree, but I turned the stand this way to capitalize on this trail that's running this way. So I was shooting across the trail. And then other pictures and stuff, I've got lots of pictures of deer down here in the mornings. So it's not so much of an evening location. That time of year I like to hunt in the morning. The problem for me here, this is the problem that I'm trying to solve here. Now we've got two problems. We've got to solve the blind problem, see if we actually have a blind that's salvageable. But the other problem that I have with this location, I'm taking advantage of the trail that I'm standing on and that mock scrape. But trees like this guy, right? This giant hemlock here, right? Trees like that are in the way, and I can put my blind. I want to get back. Remember the other videos, if you looked at them, if you listen to those other videos, 30 yards, right? I want to be 30 yards away from the scrape. That's what I'm looking for. Well, I can go out in there and have a 30-yard shot, but man, you got all these other trees that are going to hinder the shot of a broadside deer coming up this trail. But it'll give me a 30-yard shot to our mock scrape, and maybe that's all I need. So that's what we're kind of thinking about here. Today, I'm going to use a rangefinder and pick a spot 30 yards away. Now, I could go back over, right, where I had that tree stand years ago, where I've had all that success. I could put the blind 30, 40 yards out that way if I wanted to. There's lots of room in that direction. And then I'd be able to see guys coming up this trail. That's pretty important. The problem is, I'm coming from up there. I'm going to walk down across the creek. Now I got to walk across this trail to get to my blind. I don't like that, man. I don't like leaving my footprints on the trail that I'm trying to hunt. Now, in those previous encounters, that's precisely what I did, and it worked out anyway. What you do is you come down the hill, you stop there, and you spray your boots down real heavy, then walk to the stand. So you got one last spray on your boots to prohibit that scent from kicking those deer out of there and tipping them off as to what's going on. You don't want them to know that there is evil afoot. I am the evil, just so you know, in that little scenario. I want to capitalize on that scrape. So we're going to get the old rangefinder out and see where we can get a good 30-yard shot, set the blind up at 30 yards. I had it set up over here in the past at 20 yards. Good straight location. The problem is number of problems. I put the blind up too late, and I think the deer just don't like that blind popping up too close to the season. But also, I think I was getting in there in the wrong time of day. And looking back over the years, the way to hunt this spot is a morning hunt. That's what we learn as we go on. Let's see how we make out here.
Out of the eater, something sweeter. Out of the strong, something to eat. There's a time to render on the Caesar. There's a time to be free or kill. Out of the eater, something for dinner. Out of the strong, something sweet. There's a time to render on the Caesar. There's a time to live free or kill.
All right, we'll see how this works out. I am out of battery on my other camera. So I'm doing a video series here of the crossbow hunting strategies for the upcoming season. I really ought to be thinking about the battery charging strategy for the upcoming season. Not in the routine yet. I don't even know where my spare battery is. I have 2 batteries for that DSLR camera. But I do have plans, if I haven't released them already, some plans on cameras and filming and stuff. Some of you guys like that stuff. I realize that's not the most attractive or interesting thing for friends of Bunjie, but it is something that I am going to do a few camera videos about just to release so people get a little bit of some of their questions answered. If you're curious about the gear I use, check out the Death by Bunjie gear page on deathbybunjie.com. Good place to go. You can just do a search there. I'm not selling you anything on the gear page. I don't sell any of that stuff. I just show you what I use. But check out this little rub right here. That is an encouraging sign. In fact, my 2016 buck actually did some of that damage right there on this little poor hemlock tree. Poor little tree getting abused by bucks like that. Somebody ought to do something about that. I can do something about that, right? That's the whole point of this. We're going to do something about that. Protect these poor little trees. Poor little trees. There's little Miss Genevieve. Hi, Genevieve. I also want to point out that we have a camera. And I had not mentioned, but one of the problems that I had, and this is on the Death by Bunjie gear page too, 8-man cameras, love them. And they quit making them. Can you believe that? The search for a $40 trail camera with good image quality continues. A friend of Bunjie has sent me some that he likes, and I'll be trying those out. But if you have any suggestions for trail camera pictures, maybe we'll do videos on those too. But so this one, it's on the Death by Bunjie gear page, but it is no more. So we'll have to look for new ones. I don't like to spend a lot of money on trail cameras. In this day and age, they all got 1080p. That's good enough for me. I just want good, decent image quality. I want to be able to tell what I'm looking at. Good trigger speed, whatever. They should all have that, right? These did. These are really good cameras. But the key this year is going to be raising it up. Now, it's up in the air, good, okay? So I'm about 6'1", 6'1", something like that. This bad boy is probably 7 feet right to here, okay? And the camera's up in the air pointed down. I was getting images of deer. Remember this, Genevieve? We were getting images of deer in here that were looking right at the camera, weren't we? That was a problem. I don't know if she remembers it actually, but I would have deer come in here and use this scrape, and then they're looking right at the camera that was mounted on that tree with a strap, and they didn't like that. So we're gonna mix it up a little this year and put that camera up in the air where it'll be shooting down on this scrape, and they won't mind getting their picture taken. The deer might not even know it's there. So that's a key change this year for this location. This location, I am confident that this location, right? This is a killer location. And I mean that literally. This is a location where I have in the past killed deer. I've killed bucks here. In fact, I've only killed bucks here. Yeah, I've only killed bucks here.
Now my boots are wet.
Are they?
Yeah.
What, they leak?
No, I almost fell.
We salvaged the blind. How cool is that? We got lucky. Got lucky, didn't we, kiddo? Yeah. We're about done for the morning. We've done a lot. She's done a lot of work. We brought the blind over to this side of the creek. We decided to be on this side of the creek. I think deer will feel more comfortable knowing that there is a creek, a barrier, a natural barrier between this blind and their chosen path of travel. I think that they will like that. They'll appreciate that and reward us with a broadside shot moving up that trail on their way to the mock scrape over there. We have committed to this side of the creek. We've committed to a 30-yard shot. I think it's 25, 30 yards. I moved the bench backwards and forwards, but from the bench, I think it's like 26.8 yards, which is not where I wanted to be. But Genevieve pointed out what now?
If my older, slower crossbow can do it at 27 yards, so can his.
She's referring to last year. She shot a deer at 27 yards. Spot on, beautiful shot. If she can pull that off with Bunjie Jr., then I should be able to do it with the new Scorpid. It's funny how the Death by Bunjie crossbow story is ever evolving. She refers to Bunjie Jr. as an older, slower crossbow here. But that is an evolution, right? That's a relative term. Older, slower. And it's not as old and slow as Bunjie, the OB, but it is certainly older and slower than the Bunjie 3.0. So that's just the nature of crossbows though, right? There were a lot of folks who were upset when I started talking about upgrading. And when I didn't upgrade to an Excalibur, holy cow, I lost 6 subscribers. She laughing. I don't think it's funny. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but if you watched Death by Bunjie because you're an Excalibur fan and this is an Excalibur channel, you are way off. I never picked an Excalibur because I'm an Excalibur guy. That's not why I picked an Excalibur. Read my book. You will see the reasons behind all of this stuff.
And if they don't like the Scorpid, they can come watch me.
You still got Bunjie Jr. That's
yeah.
right. And Bunjie will make an appearance Crossbow Appreciation Month. We do some tests with the older, slower crossbows. There is absolutely no reason really to not be hunting with an older, slower crossbow if you are doing the right things. It's just it does not afford you the distance options I've been talking about, right, with an older, slower crossbow. It doesn't afford you the same options with regard to broadhead choice either. I want a big cutting diameter mechanical broadhead that shoots like a field point, that leaves a big hole in deer, right? And I need a crossbow that can accommodate that. Older, slower crossbows, not so much. That's just how it is. Plus the size, man. Both of our crossbows will fit right in this blind, no problem. I got friends of Bunjie telling me, how do you hunt out of these Ameristep doghouse blinds? They are so small. They are small. Small is another thing that makes it more in line with something that deer will tolerate. A real big blind, the bigger your blind gets, the more of an intrusion that is on the local area. This little guy, not so big. So we're going to stick these poles in here and get out of here. It's starting to rain. The rest of the afternoon is going to be rain. I still want to do a little grocery shopping. I want to watch a movie this afternoon. What do you think of that?
All right.
Sure, okay. We've been watching a lot of movies in these storms, man. I watch them right through the thunder and lightning. I just turn the volume up and forget about what's going on outside and hope the trees don't tip over on the house. That's all I've been doing for the last week and a half, it feels like. I hope you are safe, happy, healthy, preparing for your crossbow seasons. I hope you will tune in for future episodes of Death by Bunjie, because we're going to be looking at the well-pad food plot next. Yes! You excited?
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad she is, because I am. And I really am. I mean that. And I hope you are too. Until next time, all hail Bunjie!